besties, it's Sarah. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm bringing to you the annual mid-year book freakout tag. This is literally my 7th or 8th year doing this tag, which is kind of crazy. This year has been really interesting because I have been doing a very high volume of concept vlogs, and so a lot of my TBRs every month are already chosen for me. That's not to say that I haven't found favorite books through all these different concept videos that I've been doing, but it does mean that I am not able to be a mood reader. Before I was so heavy into reading vlogs, I definitely used to just read whatever I felt like reading in the moment. I'm definitely not mad at the reading year I've been having, even though I have read quite a few weird books for vlogs. If you've seen my taboo or dark romance vlogs, you definitely know that that is true. Normally when I do this tag, I prepare all of my answers in advance, but I actually forgot to do that before I got on camera, so we're just gonna wing it. So let's just get into the questions. Number 1 is best book you've read so far in 2023. Okay, so I ran over to my bookshelf and I grabbed the 2 books that I felt like fit this. I wanted to narrow it down to one, but these 2 books are extremely different, so we're gonna talk about both. First of these is Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. This is a cozy fantasy book that I absolutely loved. It was so cute. It was adorable. It was everything that I needed out of a cozy fantasy. This book is about our main character, Emily Wilde, who is a scholar, obviously specializing in fairies, and at the start of this novel, she is on her way to do research in this very small, quaint village far up north that's very cold. No one has ever studied the fairies in this area, and so she's trying to break ground, prepare for the encyclopedia that she's been doing. And the way this book is written is as if it's like an academic journal. Emily writes down all of her observations, all of her thoughts. It's giving sort of light academia vibes. When Emily arrives to this remote village, she unfortunately insults everyone by not really understanding their customs. Something that you need to know about Miss Emily Wilde is that she is very socially awkward. She does not really pick up on social cues. But lo and behold, her academic rival, Wendell Bamblebee. You do not understand how many times it just took me to say Wendell Bamblebee. That is a very difficult name to say. I'm going to refer to him as Wendell the rest of this. Wendell and Emily have been academic rivals for a long time. There's been instances where Wendell has stolen her research before, and she's not a huge fan of him, but they are unlikely friends because Emily doesn't really honestly have very many friends. So he shows up and he's like, hey, I figured you need my help, because he's super social, and right away when he gets into the village, everyone is loving him. And so Emily is pretty upset that he's there, and so they have a lot of banter, and obviously there's a little bit of romantic vibes between them, which is super cute. This isn't enemies to lovers, but I definitely would say it's like rivals to lovers slash just people who bicker a lot. What I loved about Emily's character is that she is so academically minded, she just doesn't really understand how she's coming across, so she gets herself into a lot of funny and different situations. And I just loved how Wendell was this charming, uber attractive guy that always gets what he wants, and he's not used to lifting a finger or like doing hard work, so the juxtaposition between them was super fun to read. I can never stop smiling when I talk about this book because I love it so much. I love Wendell and I love Emily and I love them together, and I cannot wait for the sequel. The other book that I pulled is one of the best books I've read this year, is Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. I know this book is super hyped up, but I think that it's worth it. I loved this so much, and I did not expect to like it at all. It's kind of an interesting concept when you think about it. This is about 2 best friends, Sam and Sadie, and it's their journey as they create a video game together, which I know sounds really boring and weird, but I promise you it's so good. This is a very character-driven novel about relationships and communication. I like to say it's normal people, but with video games and better. I also say that as someone who's never read Normal People. I've just seen the Hulu TV show. These characters, they have so much baggage, so much that they're dealing with, and so this book spans many years of their lives. They first meet when they're about 11 or 12, and then later when they're in college they get reunited, and that's when they decide to make a video game together, and then it's them into adulthood. And there's so much that goes on in this book. I loved it. I loved it so much. I once got a comment from someone that said that I say the phrase so much too much, but honestly, I like saying it so much, so we're going to continue to say it. Also, let's be honest, if you're a fan of my channel, it's not because I'm eloquent. I say the word like far too much for that. I think what's interesting about this book is that you definitely do not need to be into video games in order to enjoy it. It's definitely more of a human story about these characters and how they connect throughout their lives. I'd also say that it is a love letter to content creation and to art. So if you enjoy creating things at all, I feel like you will really relate to a lot of this, because Sam and Sadie just want to make their mark on the world. They want to make a game that everyone wants to play. If you don't know anything about gaming, that is totally fine, because Gabrielle Zevin does an amazing job of describing the process of creating video games in a way that is understandable to someone that doesn't even like them. I will say, as someone who does play video games, I'm not like a huge gamer, but I do enjoy video games. I have a Nintendo Switch and my boyfriend is more of a gamer. I was left really wanting to play the game that they create in this book called Ichigo. It sounded amazing and I really wanted to play it. But anyway, overall, I loved this book so much. It made me laugh, it made me cry. If you've read this, the NPC chapter, you know what I'm talking about. That chapter, literally sending Gabrielle Zevin my therapy bill, because I was shattered. I was upset, I could not get over it. The next question is best sequel you've read so far in 2023. To be quite honest, I have not read a lot of sequels this year. I honestly think I've only read one or two, but luckily one of them I absolutely loved. And that is Born Madly, which is the sequel to Born Darkly. I read Born Darkly for my dark romance vlog, and surprisingly, I actually really enjoyed this. If you watch that vlog, the other two books I read were so bad and I was honestly scared and I was gonna call the police, but this one I liked, and so maybe you need to call the police on me for liking this, because I really enjoyed it. This duology is about our main character, Linden Noble, who is a criminal psychologist. She specifically specializes in serial killers. One of her special projects is that she works with really dangerous criminals and rehabs them. She has a lot of love and hate for doing this. She's written a lot of papers about it, and so people really laud her for her research, but then also a lot of people are morally against what she does, because she does work to see the good side of people who've done really bad things. At the start of this first book, she is assigned Grayson, who's known as the Angel of Maine. He has a very Dexter vibe to him, where he is a murderer that specifically kills criminals, so pedophiles, other murderers, just anyone that's done something bad. And he specifically likes to kill them in a very Saw style manner. If you've seen the Saw movies, you'll know what I'm talking about, but basically he sets up these crazy traps and then he films it, and it's a whole thing. But obviously he got caught, and now he's being assigned to London for her to work on him as a patient. And let me just tell you, the chemistry between these people, I cannot. I was literally salivating the whole time I was reading these books. Maybe I shouldn't use the word salivating, that sounds kind of gross, but I was really into this. If you've ever read like just a super steamy romance book where you want the characters to get together so bad, that is how I felt about these books. What I've realized about myself when it comes to dark or taboo romance is that you have to sell the fantasy to me, and Trisha Wolfe did indeed sell the fantasy to me. What I enjoyed about these books so much is that London does not initially give in to Grayson's charms or wiles. She definitely finds him attractive, but she knows her place as his psychologist, and so she tries to keep it professional for a good chunk of the book, and their attraction just continues to grow, and something about him gets under her skin and they become equally unhinged together. So it feels like a slow descent into madness. What I would really compare this to is Harley Quinn and the Joker. The pacing in this is just phenomenal. Everything about it slowly pulls you in. The slow attraction, the slow descent into madness. Like, by the time these people are making out, you want them to be making out. It made me feel like that analogy of a frog in a pot, and you just slowly turn up the temperature and eventually you're boiling, but you don't even notice. Like, I was boiling to death and I loved it. I loved it. I was having such a good time reading these. Everything about them, the sex scenes, the murder, I don't know. I have a thing for serial killers. I don't know if it's because I'm a white woman, but I'm into it and I really loved these books. And so if you are looking to dabble into dark romance and you want a book that feels like Criminal Minds, but the criminals are falling in love, then I definitely would recommend this. The next question is newest release you haven't read yet but want to. My answer for this is definitely gonna have to be the newest book in the Last Hour series. If you've been watching my channel for any length of time, you will know that I constantly say that I don't read young adult. It's not my thing, it's not my journey. No offense to anyone who likes young adult. Cassandra Clare is my one exception to this rule. I am an avid reader of all the Shadowhunters books. I just love them, there's something about them. I will say I have not read a Shadowhunters book in like 1 to 2 years. Whenever the last book came out, I did read it. So it's been quite a while. I'm a little scared that I've also grown out of Cassandra Clare because I haven't read one in so long, and I know I didn't love the second book in this series, but we're gonna give it a shot. I've also seen some bad reviews of this. A lot of people said that they did not love this conclusion, but I do need to read this. I don't know when I'm going to read it, but I'm going to eventually. I kind of want to do a reread of all of the Shadowhunter books, including the Infernal Devices. Maybe not the Mortal Instruments. That one's a real struggle for me. I do not really like the Mortal Instruments, but maybe the Infernal Devices. I definitely want to reread that. Anyway, I am rambling. If you don't know what Shadowhunters is, I don't know what to say to you because these books have been out for well over a decade. But basically, Shadowhunters are these demon hunters that have angel blood in them, and they have special powers because they put these runes on their bodies, and so when they have these runes, they're able to like fight the the demons even better. And so that is a horrible explanation of what the series is about. But if you're not currently caught up, I don't even know if you should, because there's literally over 15 books, I think. And I have read all of them. Also, can we talk about this Waterstones edition? I love it so much. It is kind of tradition for me to buy the Waterstones editions of all of Cassandra Clare's books. I have all of the Dark Artifices in this style as well. The end papers are super beautiful, super cute. We've got James Herondale right there. And then who do we got back here? Oh, just James Herondale again. That's kind of lazy, to be honest. I'm actually mad about that. Now that I just discovered that, you're gonna get me with the same fucking end papers? What the fuck? Like, I spent over $40 on this because I had to, you know, do the conversion to pounds to dollars and then like send it to my house from the UK. So fuck you guys. It does have art inside, so that's kind of nice. There's a little dog in this picture, which we love to see. I don't remember which character has a dog. Maybe I should reread this series too. The next prompt is biggest disappointment. And for this, I genuinely am trying to think about what I've disliked, because I've disliked a lot of books this year. That's kind of my thing. I'm a picky bitch. Oh my god, I can't believe I didn't think of this answer first. Happy Place by Emily Henry. If you know anything about me, you know that I'm an Emily Henry stan. I would eat her ass. I love Emily Henry so much, but she upset me just an ungodly amount because I hated Happy Place so much. I was able to listen to this book a little bit early before it came out because I'm an influencer with Libro FM, and I was so wildly disappointed to the point where I canceled my pre-order. Like, I had a hardcover that was gonna be on the way and I said, no, Amazon, cancel it. I don't want that shit on my bookshelf. When I read it, I give it 3 stars because it's Emily Henry and I feel like wrong giving it lower than 3 stars. But honestly, the more I think about the book, the more I'm like, there's more of a 2-star. I listened to it in one day. Like, I was so excited. And the beginning part of this book, I was feeling it. I was like, okay, second chance romance, we can get into it. And then the longer I was in the book, the more I was like, this is not the Emily Henry that I want. This book is about a main character named Harriet who for the last, I believe, decade has been dating a guy named Wynn. And before the start of this book, they have broken up, but they don't want to tell their friends about it because their friend group is extremely close-knit and they always go on this beach house trip every single year. And so they end up on this trip and no one else knows that they are no longer together, and they basically have to pretend to still be dating. So it's like second chance meets fake dating, and all of that sounds like something I would like. What I did not enjoy about this book is that so much of it happens off page. Historically, when Emily Henry has written a book about 2 love interests that have known each other for a long time, she does a really great job of including memories so you can really understand the 2 characters and why they feel the way that they do. Wynn and Harriet have been together over a decade, right? And this friend group has been around even longer than that. Like, it took a while for them to even fall in love. And so many of the memories happen off page. We just get summaries of their college years and summaries of this and that. I really wanted to love this friend group because I love friendship and books. Friendship and books is just like even better than romance itself. But unfortunately, like I was mentioning, she kept summarizing things. So she'd be like, oh, we all graduated college and then we lived together in an apartment. Okay, then give me some scenes in the apartment. Like, there was very few scenes for each part of the book. I hate miscommunication in romance books, and the whole reason that Wynn and Harriet broke up hinges on them not communicating about their feelings, and that is just one of my least favorite things. So it was just a whole recipe for disaster for me. Like, this book was never going to be my favorite because of these aspects. And then with the friendship, like I mentioned, I could not keep track of all these characters because she just didn't give me enough to go on. Like, the girls that originated this friend group, there's 3 girls. It's Harriet and then 2 other girls that she's been like OG friends with since her freshman year of college. I wanted to love them so much, but we got like 3 scenes of them becoming friends in the beginning and then no more about them. And it just, I don't know, it did not get me in the feels. I know that a lot of people who've loved this book have loved it for those friendship aspects, but I wanted more. I just wanted more, and I expect more from Emily Henry. I feel like I was so disappointed by this because my standards for Emily Henry are so astronomically high. Like, I need her to figure this out before she writes another book because I'm getting upset, I'm getting irritated, and I'm not having a good time. I'll still eat your ass though. The next prompt is biggest surprise, and for that I have to say Book of Night by Holly Black. I could not believe I liked this. I read this for my concept where I was reading booktubers' worst books of last year, and so many people said they hated this book. Like, this was very widely disliked all across booktube. It's about our main girl Charlie, and she has a history of being a thief. For many years she just lived a life of crime, and recently she's been on the up and up. She's trying to be good, she's trying to live a good life, she's working as a bartender, she's trying to help pay for her sister to go through college. This is a modern day urban fantasy, and we're living in a world where people deal in shadow magic. You can manipulate your shadow, you can sell your shadow, you can chop off someone's shadow. Shadows are currency in this day and age. The people who deal in shadow magic are called glow-mists, and those are the people that Charlie used to work for when she was a thief. So at the start of this, Charlie is just minding her business. She's trying to be a good person. She's left her life of crime behind. But unfortunately, Charlie gets herself into a spot of trouble, and she is tasked with finding the Book of Night, and she is supposed to steal it from someone very powerful. And so this whole book is her looking for the Book of Night and uncovering different secrets about this shadow market and this shadow world that she did not previously know about. And it was just such a good time. I am very well versed in the reasons that people don't like this, obviously because I was watching all these booktubers worst of the year and it kept showing up on those lists. But what was confusing about what each person disliked about this is that it was very conflicting. In one video, I saw someone say that they didn't like how sparse the information about the shadow magic was, and then in another video I saw someone say that they thought it was too info dumpy, and personally I feel like it had the perfect amount of information. I feel like I got a lot of backstory on how this world works, and I was understanding the magic, and I just was rocking with it. I especially loved the last about like fourth of this book, and I just love a heist book. I love a heist movie. Anything with stealing in it, I'm down. And so I was living for this, and obviously I bought a special edition. I can't remember where this special edition is from, but it has end papers. It's cool. Another really fun thing about Charlie is she is a plus size queen. We love that about her. And the guy that is her love interest in this book is pretty sexy as well. And the way this ended, I cannot wait for the sequel. I hope that Holly Black writes so many books in this series. Like, I was living, I was loving, I was live, laugh, loving. The next question is favorite new author, and I was trying to think of an author that I read this year where I read more than one of their books that I really enjoyed. And I feel like I have read quite a few authors that I'd like to read more from, but I haven't yet. One author in particular that I would definitely love to read more from because of how amazing her writing style is Julia Armfield. I loved Our Wives Under the Sea. This was the perfect horror novella for me. I just loved it so much. It's about these women that are wives. Obviously, one of them goes on an ocean expedition, and when she comes back, things are not quite how they should be. And so it's just a story about grief. It's about loss. It is not a traditional horror, so don't go into this expecting to actually get like a sea monster horror. It is more about grief, and horror is just the vehicle we get the grief from. That sentence didn't make any sense. I would read anything that Julia Armfield writes next because I loved her writing style. Like, everything about this book was just so phenomenal to me. Besties, I realized that I forgot a question earlier, which was most anticipated release for the second half of the year. And for this, I have the perfect answer. Let me get the reference book for you guys. The sequel to Nevermore. I need it. I need it. I need it. Well, it's not a sequel, it's the fourth book in the series, but you know what I mean? I need the next book in this series. I've been waiting for so fucking long. It was postponed an entire calendar year. And so I am so glad that the new one is finally coming out. I don't even remember what the title of it is. Besties, I have to interrupt this programming with an announcement. I went on Goodreads to get the cover for this book so I could show you guys the next book that's coming out in the series. And why did I see that it's coming out in October of 2024? What is going on? I'm so upset. I'm literally going to send someone to do a wellness check at Jessica Townsend's house. Like, are you okay? I mean, obviously, if you're going through something, I feel really bad. But at the same time, I need the book. Like, I'm a crack addict and I need the next book. Like, I've been waiting. All around me are familiar faces, worn out. If you haven't read this series, I don't know what you're doing. If you enjoy cozy fantasy and you are okay with reading middle grade, you have to read this. A fun fact about me is that even though I don't love YA, I love middle grade. I think middle grade is so sweet and cozy and fun, especially middle grade written like this. This series centers on our main character, Morgan Crow, and she is supposedly cursed. She was born on a day called Eventide, and her whole life it's been prophesied that at midnight on her 11th birthday, she is going to die. So right before midnight strikes, when she's turning 11, this guy named Juniper shows up, and he says, if you don't want to die, come with me, and he takes her to the land of Nevermore. Nevermore is this fantastical place that Morgan cannot even believe exists. There's talking cats, there's magic. She actually moves into a hotel that constantly changes the way that it looks inside. Juniper tells her that the only way that she can stay in Nevermore is to become a member of the Wondrous Society, so she has to go through these very cryptic trials, and she is not prepared for them at all. And it's so delightful. It's so good. I love this series so much. The next question on this list is newest fictional crush. In past years, I've actually switched this question to be favorite couple, but now I actually do kind of have a crush, and that's Xaden from Fourth Wing. Wing. Fourth Wing is one of those books that is so tropey, so common. Like if you've ever read fantasy romance, you've read Fourth Wing before, but I don't even care. I gave that book 5 stars. I loved it so much. And Xaden is a zaddy. I loved Xaden so much. He is just shadow daddy, shadow magic, just everything about Xaden is sexy hot, and I was a huge fan of him and Violet dating. I don't really love Violet that much as the main character, but I feel like she's plain enough that you can self-insert and then be like, I'm dating Xaden. So we love Zaddy Xaden. The next question is newest favorite character, and for this I'd have to say Greta from The Big Swiss. In this novel, Greta is a transcript recorder for a sex therapist, and so she listens to all of his sessions and just writes down the dialogue that happens between them. I will say that this is not very ethical, and I don't think this is something that happens in real life, but the sex therapist in question is very weird, and so it kind of makes sense for the novel. As Greta is transcribing all these sessions, she becomes particularly interested in this one woman from Switzerland who she refers to as Big Swiss. Her obsession grows, and she actually runs into her one day at the dog park and they start a relationship together. And so what I love about Greta is she is so unhinged. I love an unhinged main character. Greta just lies and lies and lies this whole book and just starts this like wild relationship with this woman, and it is just such a funny book, but also like sad. And I loved how messy Greta was. Everything about Greta really embodied gaslight, gatekeep, girl boss, and I loved that about her. The next prompt is book that made you happy, and for this I would definitely have to say Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. Miss Abby Jimenez was responsible for my least favorite book of last year. I did not like her book The Friend Zone at all. I just hated everything about it. So I gave her a second chance with Part of Your World, and I adored it. It was so cute. It made me smile the whole time I was reading it. It was the perfect romance. This book is about our two main characters, Alexis and Daniel, and it's told in dual POV, which is my absolute favorite, especially when I love the male love interest, which I did. I honestly should have put him as my newest fictional crush because Daniel is perfect. Everything about Daniel, I'm obsessed. I'm a stan. I love him. At the start of this book, Alexis is driving home a long distance. She lives all the way in Minneapolis, and when she's a few hours out, she swerves to miss a raccoon and she ends up in a ditch. And Daniel shows up and just happens to have a tow on his truck. So he pulls her out of the ditch, and through a series of events, they end up having a one-night stand. But she cannot get him off her mind, so she decides to start a situationship with him. And it was just so cute. It's one of those he fell first books. Like if you want a book where the man is just an absolute simp, like obsessed with the main character, you have to read this because Daniel loves Alexis through and through, and I love that about him. The main contention in this book is that Alexis is a doctor, and she's from a long lineage of these prestigious doctors who work at this hospital in Minneapolis, and so her parents have a lot of expectations on her. She's also a whole decade older than Daniel. She's 38 and he's 28, so there's a bit of an age gap, and so she just does not see how her life is going to mix with his because he lives in this small town. It's like 2 or 3 hours away from where she lives, and so even though they're meeting up every weekend, she just does not know how their worlds are going to collide. This book is also laugh out loud funny. There was multiple scenes where I actually giggled like while I was reading it, and I read it in one sitting, which is always a good sign for me because if I read a book in one sitting, that means that it was really gripping, and this was just such a perfect romance for me. Like I loved the writing style. I could not even believe that it was by the same author that wrote The Friend Zone. Like it was so good. So if you've been thinking about picking this up, you absolutely should, or if you like Emily Henry, you should read this. If you just like cute, well-written romance that isn't necessarily super steamy. It does have sex scenes in it, but it's a little bit more fade to black than you might be used to if you like reading smutty romance. But it's just so cute and cozy. It has that small town romance vibe, and I loved all the side characters as well. And I definitely look forward to reading the next book in this series. There's like companion books with it. I did hear that someone said that the next book has a lot of the miscommunication trope, which I'm not excited about, but I do still want to pick it up. The next question is a book that made you sad. I feel like we've already talked about these two, and these ones made me sad. I'm just gonna reuse them. Obviously, Our Wives Under the Sea is about grief, so I teared up a little bit, and then this one, that NPC chapter, I'm telling you, made me sob. So these are just two books that ruined my life and made me so sad. The next question is most beautiful book that you've bought so far this year, and for that I've got a lot of answers because I am in my special edition era. So I have an addiction to special editions of Jane Austen's books as well as any book that I love. So I'm just going to show you a couple. We've got this special edition of Pride and Prejudice. I love it so much. There is artwork in it. There's like little paintings. The end papers are beautiful. Everything about it is like watercolor beautiful. I also already showed you that special edition of Book of Night, but I hate to say I have 2 more special editions because I'm truly in this era. This one has sprayed edges with the stars on the side. I think this is also a Waterstones edition. And then I have this one. Again, I don't know where this one's from. It's got the white cover and end papers and this beautiful art underneath. And then lastly, I have been subscribed to Fairy Loot for a good few months I honestly subscribed because I wanted to have access to their special editions that they sell separately. But I'm finding that even if you are a member, you still can't get what you wanted. I really wanted to buy the Fourth Wing special edition, so I honestly might unsubscribe very soon. But this is one of the prettiest books that they sent me. It's got flowers on the side, which is just gorgeous. And then it has like end papers that are beautiful. Also, the inside of this is very beautiful. I do not know what the Foxglove King is about. If you've read the Foxglove King and you liked it, please let me know down below, because obviously I own such a gorgeous copy of it and I'd love to read a good book. The next question is, what books do you need to read by the end of the year? And unfortunately, there's too many answers to this. I obviously, like I mentioned earlier in the video, have a really dedicated TBR, so I have all these books that I have to read for videos. So I don't know, I don't typically talk about my video concepts before I post them, but for example, I'm doing a video where I read the best horror books of all time according to booktubers, where I watched literally like 40 or 50 booktubers recommend horror books, and then I pick the books that showed up the most often. And so that's an example of books that I need to read before the end of the year. I specifically need to read those before October because I'm going to be doing Sara I again. If you're new to my channel, Sara I is something that I started last year where I post 13 videos in October, and so I'm going to be doing that again. So I actually have to start my reading now for that, and so there is a lot of books I have to read, but that is an example of a TBR that I have to complete. If you want a little taste into what's going to be in that video, Pet Sematary by Stephen King showed up on quite a few people's lists. But that brings me to the end of the mid-year freakout tag. I love doing this video every year. It's one of my favorites. It's a true staple of booktube. I'm sure you've been seeing everyone and their mom posting this lately. I actually normally wait till July to post this because in my opinion, you should wait till June is over for the first half of the year to be completely concluded. But people started posting theirs in like the beginning of June. So I feel like the rush to put this up has really started. And so I don't want to be too late and then have you guys be tired of this concept because every booktuber is posting this right now. If you're a booktuber and watching this, I vote that we all decide when we're going to upload this and we just all do it on one day. Like, let's get a contract going. I will literally get a DocuSign and send it to you, and we can just pass it around, and let's all just sign a document that we post this the first week of July, because then we can all just be on the same page. If you've made it to the end of this video and you enjoyed watching it, feel free to use any one of the flower emojis down below in your comments. I'm feeling very into flowers right now. I've got flowers in my hair, I've got flowers on my dress. I just love a good flower. Also, let me know your answers to some of these questions. I'd love to know what books you've been loving and hating this year. And yeah, thank you all so much for watching. You're all beautiful. Have a nice day.